The year 2010. Age preteen. You see a trailer because TV before streaming was a thing, and it is about a guy, specifically a teenager, who learns that he is the son of Poseidon. Played by the handsome Logan Lerman. Best friends, and his best friend in the movie is Brandon T. Jackson. Sign me up. At this time, I wasn't into reading at the time. So when me and my family went to see the movie, and automatically got it on DVD, by the way, automatically got it on DVD, loved it. I have no criteria for how good a movie's supposed to be. Did not like reading at the time. So watching the movie, loving it. It's got Greek mythology, like who wouldn't? Like, it's great. So fast forward till after the movie, talking to some friends about it, we're kids. My friends would talk about how it's nothing like the book. Me not caring about books, I was like, who cares? Who cares, literally? Like, it doesn't have to be accurate. And me, as someone who didn't read, I was just like, hey, it's a good movie. What do you want? Fast forward to now, or fast forward to middle school. I'm going from 11 to 13, and I finally start reading. I get the reading bug. I can't stop. There was always a book in my hand. So one of my many conquest of books becomes the Percy Jackson series. Now, because I still liked the movie, and I didn't know how inaccurate movies and TV shows could be to the book. How hard is it? They say they look like this or act like this. Get somebody who looks like that. Even if they don't look like that, why can't you get a wig, dye their hair, get some contacts, anything, and then teach them to act like they do in the book? I don't know why it's still so hard today, but if it's so hard today, it must have been terrible a decade ago. I actually pick up on without reading The Lightning Thief. And that's what the first movie is based on. The first book, The Lightning Thief. I did not know the accuracy had to be that important, so I just pick up with Sea of Monsters. I went completely off of what I had seen in the movie. Nothing like what the actual first book was like. Didn't think that was terrible because I knew they give you every big main character in the movie. So I could read the other books without having to be like, oh, who's this person? They don't introduce a bunch of people in the book, just like main people and people you would know. Like, they introduce the Greek gods, you know them. So it's okay. As long as you know, like, the main cast, it was okay. So I start off with Sea of Monsters all the way to the last book, and I love it. I am obsessed, and I really loved Greek mythology at the time. I did so much when I got to high school, I take Latin for 4 years. Latin. Is it with me today? Did it help me in any way? No. But do I love it? Yes. And you're like, what does learning about Latin and Roman culture have to do with Greek mythology? Babe, as soon as the Romans conquered the Greeks, they saw their culture and they said, me likey. I want it, I got it. If you really want to know what actual cultural appropriation looks like, look at how the Romans literally took everything from the Greeks and then made it Roman. So they took all of their gods and literally just made them theirs and gave them different names. Yeah. So we learned a lot about, well, you can't learn about Rome without learning about Greece, because Greece gave a lot of what we know about Roman culture to the Romans, the world, actually. So it just went hand in hand. So I learned about both, and I loved it. I still love it to this day. So finish the series, read it front to back, side to side, all around. Love it. Get all of my friends to read it. Fast forward till now, 2024, my God. And the show comes out. The show on Disney Plus. It does not take a lot for me to like a show or a movie. So when I see things, I'm really not like, oh, that's not like this or that, or I don't have a criteria on what makes something good. I like a lot of stuff that's considered bad. I like the Transformers series, okay? The live action. So do with that what you will. So I was like, okay, let me start with the first book. Went to Walmart, picked it up, $7. Love it. That's how much books should be in the first place. Purchase it, I read it, and I'm like, it's just gonna be like watching the movie, but with words. Boy, was I in for a surprise. Yeah, the movie is nothing like the book. The only thing they get correct is basically how Percy looks in the movie. Like, the way that actor looks is how Percy looks. He does have like black hair and like blue eyes. Grover is given like racial ambiguousness. He's not like given a race. So the boy in the show looks like he's Indian. He's brown. And even in the movie when they made Brandon T. Jackson the satyr, it was like it didn't matter because he didn't give Grover like a specific racial feature. It was just like he was brown, he had curly hair. That could be anybody. That could be a lot of different things. So it didn't really matter who played Grover as long as they were like brown, I guess, and had like curly hair. And now I didn't really see the issue with Annabeth in the movie. All I know in the book is it was like she has piercing eyes, and the girl who did play her in the movies like was known for having those eyes that would just like stare into your soul, like that Miley Cyrus meme. But Annabeth did have like blonde curly hair in the books. At the end of the day, I'm just like, I just now accept that movie adaptations and even shows are like metaphors for being in a completely different universe than what the original product was. So like the original product is the book. Any show or movie is just an adaptation and is not meant to be taken seriously. But I do get it as a book lover. You want to see exactly how you envisioned it in your head. Reading the book really just showed me how crazy I was to not start off with the first book in middle school. Now I'm like, how did you even finish the series? There is so much missing, and there has to be for a movie because movies are obviously shorter besides Marvel ones. They're significantly shorter. So you've got to shove all this information, and sometimes you have to cut out stuff to make the story just go smoothly and just like move quickly. There was so much they couldn't have put in. It's nothing like crazy, but it's stuff that definitely you would want to know. Everything. I'm just going to break down the movie real quick because that's the quickest. The show only has had 4 episodes out now, so I could do a little bit of the show, and then we're going to talk about what comes from the books that should be like public information. The movie, when I watched it when I was younger, we all knew it was based on Greek mythology, obviously, and starts off a guy named Percy Jackson, obviously. They're in high school in this, so they're much older. Well, like, we're just gonna talk about the movie. And in the movie, they're like 16, and that's what a lot of just movies and shows were doing back in the day. Even today, they start you at this 15, 16 to 18 type of thing. And we start off with Percy in a pool, and he's able to hold his breath for a really long time. He's in like the school pool. So he's able to hold his breath for like a really long time. I think Grover had said like 12 minutes or something like that. Not me. Not me. No. Why are you under there that long? So you already get the impression that Percy is like special. he can do things. We just don't know why. So we get introduced to his best friend, who is played by Brandon T. Jackson. He's so fine, and like loved him in everything he was in back in the day. He doesn't really act now. He's very like anti-acting actually. Look him up. His story is like really interesting. So I'm gonna watch both of them, and Brandon's always wearing this like leather jacket, looking like a biker. Like I loved it. So Brandon's character Grover, we're just gonna keep calling him Grover, has to always wear crutches. So I mean, so you're like, okay, that he's got a friend. His best friend's a black guy who wears crutches. They've got all the diversity right there. They said diversity, check. Percy and Grover are, you know, going through school. They give the impression that they very much hate it. But they're gonna get through it. They're best friends. So as long as you've got like one person to go through stuff with, everything's kind of cool. So they've got each other. So their school goes on a field trip to a museum, and Percy's teacher, who is this guy in a wheelchair, he asked Percy like a question about like what this Greek statue says, and you learn that Percy can actually read the Greek, and he gets it right, and his teacher just in an all-knowing way is like, yeah, good job for knowing. Actually earlier in the scenes in school, it's actually kind of shown that Percy is like dyslexic. He couldn't like read what was on the like board in school, the chalkboard. So it is like significant that he could read Greek, and then we find out later why. During the field trip, one of the teachers, it's not given in detail who she, like what teacher she is, so I don't know where this lady comes from, but she's like, Percy, can I see you? He thinks he's in trouble. She takes him to like the back of the museum, and she turns into a monster, specifically a fury. So she looks very demon-esque, covered in like, it's like a mix of fur and scales, and just still has a human face, but then like sharp teeth. So she chases Percy. He doesn't know what's going on. He is just fight or flight, and he's running. So he's able to get away from her. I think the teacher in the wheelchair gives him, let me read his name because I don't want to keep calling him the teacher in the wheelchair. Mr. Brunner, that's his name. So Mr. Brunner actually before gives Percy this gold pin, and he just tells him to keep it on him. He's like, okay, whatever. So he's actually able to like click that pin, and the pin turns into a sword. He's able to kill the Fury. And fast forward to after school, Percy goes home, and he has a stepdad, and his stepdad is just disgusting. He gambles. Percy's walking in, and he's having a gambling party. His mom, he always is yelling at, he's like, hey, you need to cook this, you need to clean this. He's not asking, he's telling her. And Percy just cannot understand, because he thinks that, his mom is like the best in the world, so why is she with this terrible man? But we find out later why she is with him when she kind of does not need to be. His mom is like, hey, let's go on a trip. So they're driving at night. They're on their way to probably like somewhere in the wood, like a campground. And they're driving, it's nighttime, and she just starts telling him like, Percy, you're like very special. Your father was a very special person. We were in love and stuff like that. And he's like, okay, why isn't he here? So before she can tell him, their car gets attacked by they see it's some type of wild animal, but we don't know what it is yet. So Percy and his mom are able to make it out of the car, and Grover shows up, and Percy's like, what are you doing here? So Percy's mom ends up telling him everything, and she's like, you're special. She doesn't say like why yet, but she's just like, Percy, you're special, and you need to go with Grover now. And Percy obviously is being a good son, and he's like, I'm not leaving you, whatever this thing is. Turns out the thing is the Minotaur. The half bull, half man thing, yes. the Minotaur, and it is chasing them. They specifically went to the woods because Percy's mom was taking him to a camp, specifically Camp Half-Blood, where all the demigods go, all the children of gods or magical beings. Percy and Grover make it through the gate, and he is like, "Mom, come, come on, we're about to be safe," because supposedly this Minotaur cannot get through the gate. It's only demigods can get through the gate. And the mom tells Percy that she cannot go. She can't go to the camp with him because she is not a demigod. She does not have any magical blood in her, nothing divine. So she will not be allowed in by whatever force allows demigods into the camp. Percy obviously wants to reach back for his mom and go get her, but Grover keeps, trying to stop him because the objective right now is just to get Percy through that gate, get him safe. And the Minotaur ends up getting his mom, and he gets her by the neck, and he like crushes her into like ash. And so Percy doesn't stop there though. He goes and attacks the Minotaur, and he's able to actually kill it with its own horn. That's pretty badass. Like if you didn't believe you were special till now, like that is something to show you that you're different from everybody else. To the camp, and I guess they pass out. So Percy wakes up. He wakes up to Grover and sees that he has horns, and he's a centaur. No, not centaur, satyr. I always get it mixed up. He is a satyr, so that is like the half goat, half human type creature. Obviously, this freaks Percy out. He's like, "You ain't. That's why you." But it makes sense now why Grover had crutches, because he actually was hiding his like hooves, his goat half, in the pants. So that's why he was always wearing crutches at school, to make it seem like it was because of some type of disability, not he's half goat. Just taking him into the camp, he's showing him what his new life is going to be like as a demigod, trying to like break everything down for him. He sees people fighting with armor and swords, and then they get their eyes on Annabeth, and you can already tell this is like they want them to make something between them. There actually is something between them, but in like the books and like the shows, it gradually builds up. It's not, romance is not a huge element in this series, which is good. Not everything has to be romance, and romance can honestly ruin some really good stories. So, but in the movie, they automatically are like, oh, these do have something between them. And so they get their eyes on each other. Grover tells Percy about Annabeth. She is the daughter of Athena. Now, it is still a mystery on who Percy's father is. So Grover's just introducing him to everybody who does know who their parent is. And there's actually some demigods who are at the camp who do not know who their parents are either. Their parents have to claim them. And that is the saddest thing ever, because there are people who have been at this camp for like their whole lives, and their parent has not claimed them. But they are able to stay at the camp because obviously they wouldn't have been able to get through the gate of the camp if they didn't have demigod abilities. So they're allowed to stay at the camp. Grover takes Percy to like the headmaster employee part of the camp, like the, what are they called? Not cottage, but just like one of the houses in the camp. And Percy meets his teacher, Mr. Brunner, and he is not in his wheelchair anymore. He is a centaur, which is the half horse, half human mixes in mythology. And obviously Percy again is like, what? He still doesn't believe any of this is real. So he is telling Percy like, you are very special. Mr. Brunner's name is actually Chiron, and Chiron is an actually big character in Greek mythology. He trained a lot of the heroes. So I think he trained Achilles, but he trained a lot of the like great heroes of Greek mythology. So Chiron is really important. He's been around for a very long time. It's time for Percy to learn, I guess, like get used to the camp, and he is being taught fighting. I think here Percy meets Luke, who has been at the camp for a very long time as well. And he sees Luke as like a friend. Luke is nice to him. So in the camp, each house is represented by a god. So Zeus has a house, and any kid of Zeus will live in that house. Poseidon, Hades, Hera, um, Athena, like Ares, Hephaestus, Aphrodite, they all have a house, and whoever's kid they have that they've claimed lives in those houses. So the gods who have the most kids in the house, which means the ones being most busy, is Ares, the god of war. I think Athena had some, but every kid who has not been claimed yet goes to Hermes, House Hermes, and that's because he's the god of travelers. He's the messenger god, and he is the god of travelers. So all of the kids who haven't been claimed stay in Hermes's house, and it's a lot. It's a lot. Getting very sad. So Percy stays in the Hermes camp, the Hermes house, and that's how he ends up meeting Luke. Luke seems like an ally, seems like a friend, seems like somebody normal. Kids play this capture the flag game. They take it very seriously because their godparents are watching, and they want to make them proud. So Percy ends up on the blue team, I believe, with Annabeth and Luke, and they end up winning. Percy ends up with a cut on his face, and he falls in the water. So what ended up happening is something happens with the water to where it crawls all over Percy like it's alive, and it heals him. And they end up everybody figuring out at the end of capture the flag that Percy is the son of Poseidon, one of the big three: Poseidon, Zeus, Hades. And to be a child of the big three is important. It's in a sense bad, because some millennia, years before, I guess, they made a pact of the big three that they would no longer have human children. They wouldn't have demigods anymore, because a lot of them would fight each other, and it would cause great wars. Great wars. They're talking about like World War I and II and stuff like those were caused by demigods. It wasn't just because these were dictators and stuff like that in whole countries going to war with each other. It was because these people, there were demigods, and they were fighting each other. And they were always demigods of the big three, which end up always being the strongest ones. So they all made a pact for world peace, because the gods are just so selfless like that. That's sarcasm, by the way. They make this pact that they will no longer have demigod children. So the world will not be, corrupt, destroyed, I guess, more than it is. Obviously, we know Zeus. All of them break that pact. So they end up finding out Poseidon, is Percy's dad. So all Percy is like, why is this man not talk to me? And why he let my mama be with this dude, this ugly, dusty, musty, crusty, poor, like no good for nothing, like just be, with my mom if you're a whole god. So their team is celebrating winning capture the flag. And while they're getting their food, they're having a big bonfire. The fire literally explodes, and this big demon guy comes out. Turns out it's like Hades in like telepathic form. That's not his real form. That's just his form through the fire. And it looks like this big demon guy. And he calls out Percy Jackson. He's like, Percy Jackson, I know you have what I need, and we can do a trade. You give me this thing I'm looking for, and I'll give you your mother. So Percy finds out his mom is alive. But Chiron advises against it, because he's like, he could be lying. And two, they don't know if Percy has what he's looking for, which is what this is all about. This is why it's called the Lightning Thief. So I guess some months before, lightning bolt gets stolen. And I'm just like, Zeus has one lightning bolt. One? You are the top god and you got one lightning bolt? Until someone is able to steal it? Let alone a demigod? Again, are y'all powerful or not? It's not making sense, but you have to realize, in like the whole point of mythology, what made it different than other like religions and beliefs is those gods were created in like human image. So they had very human characteristics. So even though they were all powerful and stuff like that, they weren't meant to be like this, like, oh, I can do everything and nothing gets past me. They have very human characteristics. It's believed that Percy has the bolt. And Percy, like, I just found out I have a dad who actually is not a bum. I'm a demigod, so I got powers, and people trying to kill me, and it's because they think I got the bolt. I ain't even got it. When did I have time to go get the bolt? I just found out all of this. It does not matter. They think he has it. So Percy's like, okay, well, where is it? Let me go get it. I could bring it back to him. Maybe I could meet my dad, and I need to go get my mom. My mom rises against it. He's like, you cannot leave, especially because you just got here. You have no training. You cannot protect yourself, so you need to stay here. Percy's like, okay. Obviously, being a teenager, he doesn't follow that. He sneaks out of the camp at night, and Annabeth and Grover come with him. Now, in between us, Luke gives Percy some shoes that he said his father gave him. His father being Hermes. Yeah, Hermes. His father being Hermes, he gives Percy these sneakers that have wings on them. So they can help him, I guess, get out of a pinch if he needs to fly, I guess. So it's a nice gift. So Percy takes them on their quest, on their journey. Their first stop is it's like a garden shop. It's where you get like garden accessories, garden gnomes, plants, and stuff like that. And it's kind of dead in there. There's no one there. And it's a lot of statues. And I start noticing these statues are very, very realistic. Like, they're not just like statues someone carved out of something. These statues look like real people who were doing everyday things. So it was like a little girl with a balloon, or a man who looks like he's in the middle of screaming. Grover even ends up seeing somebody who looks like his Uncle Ferdinand, a satyr who disappeared some years ago. That's when we get introduced to Medusa. Real baddie, real hot girl. And the one who turned her was Athena. But it was because of something Poseidon did. So she has beef with Percy and Annabeth. She is going to take any opportunity she can to get back at these gods who treated her horribly and turn her into this monster who turns people to stone. Run from her. Percy is able to cut off her head. He's able to look at her through like a reflection, not through like actually looking at her, so he doesn't get turned to stone. He can see where she is. And so he's able to actually like cut off her head. They put it in a bag and they think they can use it for later. At one of the stops, they end up going to a museum, and the dragon that starts off with 3 heads, and then if you cut it off, more heads grow back. So that was in the museum they were in. They're in the museum to get these pearls, I believe, that can, if you break the pearls, it'll just send you wherever you want to go. So they're going to need that when they go to Hades. They need to just get in and get out. This casino. And in the casino, they're given these like lotus looking cookies. They look so good. I always wanted them as a kid. And they make them feel really good. They're staying at this hotel. They don't have to pay any money. I guess they don't have to be 21. No one checks their ID. And they end up staying there for a long time. Mind you, they have a week to get the bolt and then get it back to Zeus before a whole war breaks out. So Percy notices in the casino, he's like, he notices this dude playing this game, and he's kind of dressed like he's from the 70s. He's like, whatever. But the dude is like, whoa, I haven't seen a game like this since so-and-so came out. And Percy was like, that's quite old. He's like, what year do you think it is? And the dude's like, I think it's 1970 something. Isn't it? Like, why wouldn't it be? So then Percy starts to realize they're being hypnotized to stay there. And anytime he passes somebody, they keep trying to offer him this cookie. They're like, take it. Like, well, don't you like this complimentary cookie? And Percy's like, okay, something's wrong. So he goes and gets Annabeth and Grover, and he's like, we have been here. I think they were there for 5 days. They have been there most of the quest. So now they have like 2 days. Needed to make it to California. That's, I guess, is where the underworld is. So it ends up being under the Hollywood sign. I'm like, they had to do all that trekking up a mountain. Like, no, I would have quest over. I'm going home. They make it to the underworld, and they obviously get on the boat with the guy who takes you over, and they end up meeting Persephone, and she very much lets you know she does not want to be here. Obviously, if you know the story of Persephone, Hades stole her literally from while she was doing her job. Demeter, her mom is Demeter, and she's the goddess of like the harvest. So obviously her child would have something to do with the harvest. So Persephone is the daughter of like seasons, like the spring, summer, winter, stuff like that. And so her story was to tell about why the seasons change. So the misconception of Hades is not evil. There's always this. Now, actually, what he did to Persephone was pretty evil. How you just gonna take her? Well, if you're taught from like a Christianity standpoint, like if you've ever seen the Hercules movie from Disney, they do stuff in a very like Christian sense, a very like, if you're talking about like heaven, you're talking about good, and if you're talking about under the earth, you're talking about hell, the devil. Greek mythology was not like that. Hades was not an evil person. He was just over the underworld. But I guess, you being associated with like the dead and stuff like that, you get this negative connotation, but Hades is not an evil god. So this is another thing. Everybody thinks Hades has something to do with the boat. They think he's been jealous of Zeus his whole life, because they actually just did a draw. Hades, Zeus, and Poseidon, to see who would rule over certain things. So they just literally drew straws, and Zeus got the skies and Olympus, Poseidon got the seas, and then Hades got the underworld. No, he wasn't mad about that. Hades was just like, okay. And he went and did his job. He just doing his job, while Zeus the one running around doing too much with any and everybody. And he married. So they go meet up with Hades, and Hades is like, okay, where's the boat? And I'll give you your mom. She's like, we don't even have it. So I think Hades tries to fight him a little, and Percy was carrying this backpack the whole time, and in the backpack was a shield like Luke gave him. And when Percy's bag flies off of him because he's fighting Hades, I guess the shield opens and the lightning bolt is in the shield. I know, betrayal. So turns out Luke is the one who stole the bolt. He framed Percy essentially, so it made it look like Percy always had the bolt. So Hades even more is now like, oh, you really did this. Now I'm gonna get them off my case and let them know you really did it. So he ends up learning his mom is alive and she's in the underworld. He is not able to get his mom out, but that's not necessarily bad. She's not like being tortured. He just is not able to take her out with him. So the little pearls they were able to get, they used to leave. Persephone helps them like escape because she hates Hades. She hates being under the underworld. Only had like 2 pearls, and there's like 3 of them, and then Percy wants to take his mom with him, but the first thing they need to do, his friends remind him, the number one thing they need to do is go ahead and get that bolt to the gods and give it back to Zeus so a war does not break out. Grover stays behind. It gives you this little innuendo of like him and Persephone end up like kikiing and da 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 da. They are, I think it's in the Empire State Building. So, they always like to use the monuments as showing that it was so, so otherworldly. A god must, have made it and stuff like that. So, turns out Mount Olympus is on the 600th floor of the Empire State Building. Before Percy and Annabeth can get there, they get to the Empire State Building, but they're on the outside. Luke is there to fight them. And he lets them know, yeah, I'm the one who betrayed you, even though they already know that now. I betrayed you, and the whole reason Luke did all of this, he did want to start a war. Luke very much wanted to start a war, and that's because he is so sick and tired of the gods. Luke is just very much like a hurt child. I don't see him as like, obviously he's made out to be a villain, but he is just a very hurt child. He is very hurt that his dad, who is a god, does not acknowledge him. One way people work through hurt is then anger. So Luke is now, angry. So he wants a war on the gods, and he thinks if they all go to war, they'll all just destroy each other and then go away. Honestly, slay. I see where you're coming from. I would be that mad too, but like, don't start no World War III. Like it involves me. I get why you wanted to do that. I see from a mental health standpoint, but don't bring me into it. Because if they start fighting, my house comes down. Like think of the little people. Percy and Luke fight. He ends up beating Luke, and then they're able to, him and Annabeth go to the 600th floor. They go to Mount Olympus. They meet the gods. They're all big. They're all in their big, huge god forms, and they are all just sitting there like, well, you got the bolt. And I would be like, attitude, I'm leaving. Okay, never mind. The bolt's mine now. Like, that you got a lot of attitude for somebody who needs something from me. He returns it back to Zeus, and he lets them know why it was stolen in the first place. He gives them a reality check. He is like, the first of all, the boat wasn't even taken by me. It was taken by Luke. And everybody look at Hermes like, you're a kid. What you be looking at somebody's bad kid in the grocery store. You gonna do something about that? So Percy explains that Luke was acting out of anger and like hurt and rejection, that the gods in general, not just his dad, do not acknowledge them, but they want them to do all this stuff for him, like go on quests. You could have went and got the boat. You're gods, making us do it, make us earn your love when y'all need to be earning ours. Explains to them like, y'all need to change y'all ways, because it is your neglect that has created this whole mess. If the gods weren't neglectful in the first place, you would not have hurt children running around doing stuff like this, trying to get your attention. But Percy's dad, Poseidon, ends up stopping to talk to him. So he shrinks down, really lets them know like, hey, I do love you. I cannot always be there, but just know I've always seen you. Poseidon lets him know that his mom is like safe now. So his mom is out of the underworld and he's all good. So they go back to camp, and I mean, it's all done. Also, we figure out that Percy's mom is with the stepdad, who's like, terrible, because he's so like evil. He's such like a bad human. He gives off like a nasty stench to monsters that keeps them away. So Percy's mom was actually with the guy for their whole lives to actually protect Percy. Just showing another sacrifice she made to protect him. I'm going to do another video getting into the book because the show doesn't have enough episodes. And actually, when I do the next video, I'll be able to I could probably break down both because the show only has 4 episodes. They're really short. So we can get into that. Let me know how you liked this video. What do you think about the upcoming show? What did you think about the movie? What did you think about the book? All of it.